What's going on YouTube? It's Apolly Athletics, and today we're going to be talking about the 12 rules of hypertrophy. Now obviously this is inspired off Jordan Peterson's book, The 12 Rules for Life. It's very popular on Amazon. It's a pretty good book actually. I've read it before. And I thought it would just be fun to do the same thing with hypertrophy. You know, these are the 12 rules of hypertrophy. If you follow all of these, you're going to grow. And these are the rules that are almost essential, I would say. These are like the 12 most essential tips, rules, I suppose, to build muscle. If you don't follow these, then you're probably not going to build that much muscle, if any at all. So let's get into it. The first rule is progressive overload. Progressive overload is perhaps the cornerstone of hypertrophy. Without it, you basically can't progress. Progressive overload refers to making your exercises more difficult and more strenuous over time as you become stronger and more experienced in the different lifts. What happens is that in due time, your muscles get stronger and are able to adapt to the load that you're putting on it right now. So you have to increase the load as to introduce a new stimulus to it, and that induces muscle growth. If you do the same exercises for the rest of your life, you'll stifle in those exercises and you'll never progress. So progressive overload, that's the first rule of hypertrophy. The second rule is sleep. And these aren't necessarily ordered in terms of their hierarchy of importance. It's loosely ordered that way, but not quite. Anyways, the next rule is sleep. Make sure you try and get like 7-8 hours of sleep a day. First of all, like a lack of sleep hinders your performance at the gym because you'll be too tired and your muscles would have never been able to relax. So it reduces your performance to actually train in the gym. Now this assumes that you don't feel rested and you don't have any energy. You know, perhaps you could take coffee and improve your energy, right? What sleeping also does is that it balances your hormones. You release a lot of that good testosterone when you sleep, and when you wake up, your testosterones are actually the highest. So you release a lot of testosterone when you sleep. Not getting enough sleep is literally the easiest way to completely trash your testosterone levels. And obviously a lack of testosterone hinders your muscles' ability to grow. When you sleep also matters because it has to do with your circadian rhythm. The time you should be trying to sleep before midnight, don't sleep during the day because the results are best induced when you are in accordance with your natural biological clock, which is your circadian rhythm. The third rule of hypertrophy is to get your protein. Protein is made of amino acids. Amino acids are important for basically everything that you do with your body. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to be talking about how amino acids contribute to muscle gain. You know that whole idea of your muscles breaking down and then becoming stronger afterwards? The amino acids are what help break your muscles down, are what help to repair your muscles after they've been broken down. And that's where your gains really come from. It's not actually from working out, it's from recovering. And what helps you recover most optimally, aside from sleeping, of course, which I mentioned before, is your amino acids. And then proteins have a lot of amino acids. That's what helps you, repair muscles. I think I already said this. So when you have an excess of amino acids, that excess builds in new muscle tissue, which is bigger and stronger and faster and all that good stuff. The optimal amount that you should be taking a day is about 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight or 2.2 kilograms per pound of body weight a day. Or if you want to use imperial units, that is 0.725 grams of protein per pound of body weight and like 1 pound per pound of body weight a day, something along those lines. The only exception to this rule is if you're really overweight. I mean, if you're like 300 pounds, you shouldn't be taking 300 grams of protein if you're just really, frankly, if you have excess body fat, let's just say. Although for the rest of you, if you want to take like 2 grams per pound of body weight, sure, but it doesn't help induce muscle growth. It'll help you maybe potentially assuage your hunger, but it's not going to induce more muscle growth if you do that. The fourth rule of hypertrophy is a calorie surplus. Similar to how if you don't give your muscles more stimulus, they won't grow. If you don't give your appetite more stimulus, let's say, it'll be much harder for you to gain muscle in the long run. Technically, like scientifically, of course, it's possible to gain muscle at maintenance or even at a deficit, but it gets significantly harder at higher levels and your body needs more juice to be able to actually induce the effects, the ability to gain muscle. So I think that you should be at a calorie surplus, like a moderate calorie surplus, if you're trying to gain muscle. That way you minimize, if not eliminate, actually completely fat loss. So just, small calorie surplus, generally speaking, for most people who get pretty advanced, you gotta just pump up the numbers at some point. Rule number 6 is lifting safely. Lifting safety, sorry. Well, lift safely with this rule, which is lift safety. Anyways, lift safely. You want to make sure that you warm up properly, whether that be through, light cardio, light walking on the treadmill or on the stairs or on the elliptical. Make sure that you stretch before you do it. Make sure you do some dynamic stretches to warm up your muscles. And then of course, make sure that you work up towards your working set. Maybe you want to do just like lifting up the bar at first, and then afterwards putting in 1 plate, and then 2 plates, and then 3 plates until you get to the working set that you want to work with. The 7th rule is to approximate failure. As you get more advanced, it's integral that you train closer and closer to failure. When you're a beginner, you can basically just do whatever you want and you'll grow at least a little bit. But once you become more advanced, you kind of gotta train pretty close to failure to induce significant muscle growth. Of course, also this plays into progressive overload. You got to train harder to induce more, to get closer to a point where you would progress. And most people, they don't train hard enough. They don't even train even remotely close to failure. So I would say that you should test out your failure, test out how hard you can go to failure every once in a while, so that you can use that as a sort of barometer to, conduct your training program around. And then once you know your limits, try and go like anywhere between 2 to 4 reps shy of failure, depending on the exercise. If it's like a machine, then maybe you can go very close to failure. If it's maybe a bench press or squat, you don't want to like hurt yourself or risk getting injured, you can go like 3 or 4 reps shy of failure. 4 reps might be pushing it, but 3 reps I think is pretty safe. Rule number 8, prioritize compound lifts and optimize the isolation lifts. You're going to induce most of your gains from the compound lifts because they induce more musculature. So you should prioritize those, put those at the beginning of your workout. Then afterwards, you should put in the more supplementary exercises to help with the totality of your development. It also helps work on the smaller muscles as well, because when you do big heavy lifts like deadlift, squat, bench, overhead press, pull-ups, these are going to be working your prime movers. That's going to be like your chest, your back, like your lats, and your legs. That sort of stuff is going to be worked significantly. So if you want to work on like your smaller muscle groups, like your triceps, your shoulders, your calves, your the smaller muscle groups that you want to work on, then you should be having some isolation work in there. So that'd be bicep curls, tricep push downs, lateral raises, that sort of stuff, if you want to maximize those muscle groups, which I think is a worthwhile pursuit. Rule number 9, make sure you live a clean lifestyle. So basically, don't take an excessive amount of alcohol, smoke cigarettes, or take weed, because all that stuff could be killing your gains. Now, it's probably not that big of a deal if you do it every once in a while, but if you make a habit out of doing it, and if you do it, very frequently, you're gonna get like the beer belly, what they say, and smoking is also not gonna really help you either. So yeah, I'm not saying that you should completely withdraw from this stuff if that is that helps you in some way. I'm just saying that you should, pretty significantly if you want to maximize your muscle gain. Rule number 10, we're getting into double digits. This one is called be precise in your exercise. It's kind of similar to the actual Jordan Peterson rule, which is be precise in your speech. Anyways, this rule seems kind of similar to the one about safety, but it's make sure that you're using the right muscle group. Make sure you're not cheating. You're not excessively cheating on your exercises. Make sure you are, doing the lift as intended. Make sure you're getting to 90 degrees on your squat. Make sure that you are bending your back properly when you deadlift. Make sure that you are not cheat curling too much. That sort of stuff is going to very much hinder your gains. So make sure you're very cognizant of the form that you're using, and that is not only is it more safe, but it's also better for your gains. So that's rule number 10. Rule number 11, make sure you stay within the 5 to 15 sort of rep range. Now, technically you can grow muscle at any rep range because that's how your body works. But in terms of practicality, it is much better if you work within the 5 to 15 sort of rep range. If you go below 5, you're actually inducing more strength, and also it's more dangerous if you go consistently at like 3 or 2 reps because, that's a lot of weight and you could very easily injure yourself. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's also worse for overall muscle gain. And if you go above 15, it's also not ideal. Not because you can't gain muscle from it, but because it takes a significantly longer time to not only perform, but also recover. There's a lot of mental stress just being so close to failure for so long. There's a lot of mental stress in that. Because like I said, you should only be like, 2 or 3 reps away from failure, right? So if you're gonna be, if you can do like 80 push-ups or something like that, it's gonna be a lot of effort going from like 60 to 80 reps of push-ups, as opposed, because you can go up to like 77, right? You should be getting up to 77 to induce the most amount of hypertrophy. But around 60, you're already getting really tired. So it's going to be very, very mentally stressful to really grind out those like 17, 15 reps. And also your cardiovascular endurance is being tested when you go into the super high rep ranges. Because if you're doing like, if you're doing like 150 push-ups every workout, you're gonna get a really good sweat, and it's gonna be your heart that seems to fatigue before your chest or your triceps or shoulders that seem to fatigue. So really, I think that anything between 5 to 15 reps for practicality is probably the best rep range to go at. Maybe some people have like a little bit higher rep ranges. Maybe some people have a little bit lower. Some people may say like 7 to 12, or some people may say like 5 to 25. But I think 5 to 15 is where I personally think is the most ideal. And number 12, just really quick and also really important, is to just be consistent. None of this matters if you don't do it consistently. You can do it, in short bursts. Like, you can work out, 6 days a week for a month and you get some gains there. But if you work out like 3 times a week for, 6 months, that's gonna be a lot better. It's not short bursts of motivation, but it's years of dedication that truly reap results. And that's one of the most important rules, So those are my 12 rules of hypertrophy. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Catch you all next time. Peace.